What happens when a tech titan with interplanetary ambitions sits down with a billionaire businessman who thinks AI stands for Alibaba intelligence? What was supposed to be a high-level discussion on artificial intelligence turned into one of the most bizarre, unintentionally comedic interviews in tech history. Elon Musk, the man behind SpaceX, Neuralink and Tesla, known for his forward-thinking views on AI and the existential risks it poses to humanity, sat across from Jack Ma, Alibaba's founder and China's richest man, only to realize within minutes that he was in for a ride he hadn't signed up for. What started as a summit of giants soon unraveled into a train wreck of misunderstanding, mismatched intellects, and moments so awkward you'd think it was scripted satire. But it wasn't. This was real. This was the day Elon Musk realized Jack Ma had no idea what artificial intelligence really was, and the entire internet got front-row seats to the moment it clicked. The auditorium was packed, hundreds of eager faces lit by the soft blue glow of LED lighting. The banners read, "World AI Conference," a place where the brightest minds in technology had come together to discuss the future of humanity. But as Elon Musk stepped onto the stage, there was a sense of anticipation unlike anything before. Cameras flashed, applause echoed, and then, from the other side of the stage came Jack Ma, charismatic, confident, and smiling, with the ease of a man used to admiration. But behind that smile was something Elon hadn't quite anticipated, a fundamentally different understanding of the very thing they had come to discuss. As the conversation began, it didn't take long for the tension to surface. The moderator offered the two billionaires a chance to define their vision for the future of artificial intelligence. Elon, known for his measured, often grave tone when discussing AI, sat silently waiting for his turn. But Jack Ma jumped in first, with a line so absurd, so astonishingly misplaced it caused the entire room to pause. "I hate the word AI," Jack declared confidently, waving his hand with dramatic flair. "I call it Alibaba intelligence." There was a moment of silence, the kind that stretches longer than it should. Elon turned slightly toward him, blinking, as though trying to process what had just been said. The audience gave a few nervous chuckles, unsure if it was a joke or a marketing stunt. But Jack was dead serious. He continued, "I think I should stand for something positive. Artificial intelligence sounds scary, but Alibaba intelligence, that is about using smart technology to improve lives." Elon gave a polite smile, the kind you give when someone just insulted a topic you've spent decades researching. "Yeah, that might end up being true," he muttered, eyes betraying the disbelief bubbling just beneath his composed demeanor. But Jack wasn't done. He leaned forward, as if delivering some profound truth to the crowd. "You know, I'm not a tech guy. I'm more about life. I think AI is not something to worry about. It's something to enjoy." At this point, Elon's body language shifted. He folded his arms, glanced to the side, and gave a faint smirk, as if to say, "This is going to be a long talk." You could see it in his eyes, that mixture of confusion and concern, like a teacher watching a student proudly explain 2 + 2 = 5. Jack went on, using phrases like, "AI will help us understand ourselves better," and "it's about love, not logic." The crowd, largely made up of tech professionals, engineers, and AI researchers, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Elon, the man who has warned the world about the dangers of AGI, sat listening to a man who believed AI was simply a good-natured tool for e-commerce optimization. What made it even more surreal was Jack's tone, cheerful, almost dismissive of the risks. He spoke about AI like it was a new smoothie flavor. "People who worry about AI are college smart," he said. "We, street smart people, we know it's nothing to be afraid of." Elon raised an eyebrow, visibly puzzled. Jack had just dismissed a massive body of academic research, ethical warnings, and existential risk analysis with the flick of his wrist. This wasn't just a difference in opinion, it was a fundamental disconnect. "You know, I don't know, man," Elon finally said. Famous last words. And that's when the gap became undeniable. Elon tried to steer the conversation back to something grounded, discussing the neural architecture of intelligence, the exponential acceleration of deep learning, the reality of recursive self-improvement in machine systems. But Jack wasn't following. Instead, he offered vague metaphors and anecdotes about how humans are wise because they have hearts, not chips. And then came the moment, the exact moment Elon Musk realized he wasn't in a serious discussion at all. Jack Ma leaned in and said, "I'm not interested in Mars, I just came back from there." It was said with a chuckle, meant to be light-hearted. Elon looked at him, unsure whether to laugh or correct him. "I think we should focus on Earth," Jack continued. "I'll go to the Himalayas when there's an elevator." Elon blinked. The audience laughed nervously. This was no longer a panel discussion. This was a philosophical freestyle from a man who had no interest in science, trying to outtalk one of the most scientifically minded entrepreneurs of the modern era. And yet, Elon didn't walk off. He didn't roll his eyes. He sat, smiled, and responded with the kind of restrained grace that made the contrast between the two men even starker. Elon was trying to discuss existential risk. Jack was busy riffing on how computers aren't wise because they don't have feelings. For viewers at home, the absurdity was impossible to ignore. Social media exploded. Clips of the interaction went viral. Tweets joked about Alibaba intelligence becoming the new industry standard. Memes were made. Articles were written. But behind the laughter, there was an unsettling truth. If this was the level of understanding global business leaders had about AI, humanity was in trouble. Jack Ma, for all his business genius, seemed trapped in an outdated mindset. A mindset that treated technology as a tool for commerce, not as a force that could rewrite the fabric of society. Elon, on the other hand, saw the coming wave, and he knew how dangerous it could be if people like Jack kept underestimating it. As the chapter closed, it was clear. This was no meeting of minds. This was a cautionary tale. A moment in history when one of the smartest men alive realized that another titan of industry, praised, celebrated, and quoted, had no idea what he was talking about when it came to artificial intelligence. It began with a smirk. A moment so subtle, yet so revealing. The kind of smirk you catch on a man's face when he hears something so profoundly wrong that he's unsure whether to laugh, cry, or simply reboot his brain. Elon Musk had just heard Jack Ma claim, with full confidence and a straight face, that 99.99% of all human predictions are wrong, including this one. There was silence, a flicker in Elon's eyes. The audience chuckled nervously. And in that exact second, a quiet war began, not of insults or raised voices, but of ideologies. On one side, the engineer billionaire who breathes in code and thinks in timeframes of 1,000 years. On the other, a businessman turned philosopher who'd rather wax poetic about life than get tangled in the nuances of artificial neural networks. This wasn't just a talk, it was a cognitive collision. Jack Ma leaned into his usual philosophical rhythm, throwing out abstract generalities wrapped in charisma. "AI will help people understand themselves," he said, pausing as if he'd just delivered a line from a holy book. Elon blinked. You could see the restraint in his body language. He wanted to challenge, to correct, to explain why Jack's statement made no measurable sense. But instead, he just let it hang in the air like a bug in the system, knowing full well that the audience wouldn't get it. Because how could they? The stage was set for a battle between precision and poetry, and poetry was about to embarrass itself. Jack Ma wasn't done, not even close. His next idea? That we shouldn't worry about predicting the future, because humans are always wrong anyway. He laughed. The audience laughed with him. But Elon didn't even flinch. Because to a man building rockets to Mars and neural implants for the human brain, the future isn't some abstract idea. It's a deadline. To Jack, time was a playground. To Elon, it was a bomb with a ticking clock. That's the core disconnect. Jack Ma approached technology like a TED Talk guru, throwing out vague wisdoms like, "Don't worry, we'll figure it out." Elon, on the other hand, was watching the ice caps melt, AI evolve, and our species gamble with extinction. One man was meditating in a forest, the other was trying to keep humanity alive, and it showed. But the real irony? Jack Ma wasn't stupid. not by a long shot. He was just so confident in the wrong things. Like when he casually dismissed Elon's Mars ambitions as a waste of curiosity. "I just came back from there," Jack joked, flashing a grin. "Why are you so curious about Mars? You go, but you never come back." The crowd laughed. Elon smiled, tight, controlled. You could tell he wasn't offended. He was baffled. To him, going to Mars wasn't about curiosity. It was about survival, about creating a backup drive for humanity. But Jack didn't get that. His worldview couldn't accommodate something that didn't have immediate financial return or poetic elegance. "We should focus on Earth," Jack insisted. Elon didn't disagree. But what Jack failed to grasp was that focusing on Earth and planning for Mars were not mutually exclusive. Elon was doing both. Jack was doing neither. Then came the Himalayas analogy. Jack Ma's infamous punchline. "I don't want to go to the Himalayas until there's an elevator." The crowd roared. Elon sat still. You could almost hear the subtext buzzing in his mind. This man thinks elevators define ambition. Jack wasn't just resisting technological challenge, he was rejecting it with pride. And that's when it hit. Elon realized that Jack Ma didn't understand the stakes of what they were discussing. And worse, he didn't care to. It wasn't just a difference in intellect, it was a fundamental divergence in worldview. Jack believed in faith. Elon believed in engineering. Jack said things like, "Don't worry, it'll all work out." Elon stared at global trends and whispered, "It won't, unless we act." There was a moment, somewhere around the 20-minute mark, where Elon looked like he was physically holding himself back. Jack had just said, "Humans can never create something smarter than humans." It wasn't a controversial opinion, it was a childish one. Elon raised his brows, tilted his head slightly, and for a brief second, the facade of politeness cracked. "I very much disagree with that," Elon said. His voice was calm, but there was fire under the surface. Because this wasn't just about AI, it was about responsibility. Elon wasn't building smarter machines because he wanted to replace humans. He was doing it because they were coming, whether we're ready or not. And Jack Ma, one of the richest and most influential men on the planet, was up there treating it like a philosophy seminar. "Humans have heart," Jack insisted. "Computers have chips. The heart has wisdom." Elon squinted, not because he didn't understand, but because he did. This was romantic nonsense. Empty calories served to an audience craving sugar when they needed protein. Elon wasn't just disagreeing, he was worried. Worried that the people with power, the people with reach, with billions of dollars and millions of followers, were dangerously uninformed about the very technologies shaping our future. Jack's message wasn't evil, but it was naive. And naivete at that level isn't harmless, it's lethal. It slows down real progress. It encourages false security. It tells the public, "Don't worry, the smart people will figure it out," without realizing that he was supposed to be one of the smart people. Elon saw it, felt it. This wasn't a conversation anymore. It was a preview of the problem. The reason we might fail. The gap between those who see the storm and those who smile in the sun. Jack was trying to entertain. Elon was trying to warn. And the deeper they went, the wider the gap became. Jack spoke about education, how computers are clever, but humans are smarter. He used analogies about hearts and mushrooms and joked about how AI would never control us. "It's impossible," he said. Elon stared, not because he was speechless, but because nothing he could say would land. The man next to him wasn't listening, he was performing. Elon, on the other hand, was calculating the fallout of public misunderstanding. AI, to Jack, was an accessory. To Elon, it was an existential fork in the road. One path led to a better world, the other to something none of us could reverse. And in that conversation, on that stage, Elon realized something terrifying. One of the richest men alive couldn't tell the difference. By the end of it, the tone had shifted. The audience was still laughing, still clapping, but something had changed. Elon had withdrawn slightly, not out of ego, but out of recognition. This wasn't a debate he could win, not with logic, not with facts, because the other side wasn't playing the same game. Jack wasn't interested in being right. He was interested in being charming. And charm, in rooms like that, often wins. Elon knew it, and that's what made it so tragic. Because charm won't build rockets. Charm won't regulate AI. Charm won't save humanity. Elon wasn't worried that Jack was stupid. He was worried that Jack was influential and dangerously wrong. And as the lights dimmed and the cameras rolled on, the internet would soon erupt with clips and sound bites, many praising Jack's optimism, his wit, his deep wisdom. But beneath the viral edits and Twitter quotes, one man had left the stage disturbed. Not because his ideas were challenged, but because they were dismissed by someone who didn't even understand them. And that, more than anything, was the moment Elon Musk realized we're not ready. Not because of the machines, but because of the men. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where dreams of interplanetary colonization ignite the imaginations of visionaries, two titans of industry, Elon Musk and Jack Ma, find themselves at a crossroads of ideology. One envisions humanity as a multi-planetary species, reaching for the stars and beyond. The other, grounded in earthly concerns, questions the very necessity of such ambitions. Their dialogue at the World Artificial Intelligence Conference becomes a tapestry of clashing worldviews, woven with humor, contradiction, and insight. Elon Musk believes Mars is not just a planet. It's humanity's backup drive, a survival imperative in the face of extinction-level threats. He speaks with urgency and conviction. But Jack Ma, he laughs. "I just came back from Mars," he jokes. His dismissal is half in jest, but fully deliberate. To Jack, space isn't the frontier worth chasing. Earth is still unfinished. There's too much pain, too much healing left to do here. Education, the environment, poverty. Why escape before we fix our own mess? And then he drops the line that becomes legendary. "I'll climb the Himalayas when there's an elevator." The room chuckles, but Elon's eyes don't flinch. He doesn't smile. For him, challenge is the point. You don't wait for an elevator to reach the summit. You climb, you fall, you get back up. That's how progress is made. Two giants, two minds, one grounded in philosophical optimism, the other driven by existential urgency. As the conversation veers into artificial intelligence, the gap widens. Jack believes AI will help us understand ourselves. Elon fears it could destroy us. Jack trusts that love and humanity will prevail. Elon warns that such faith could be our undoing. And there they sit, two icons of our era, locked in polite conflict, smiling through disagreement, both believing they hold the answer to the future. But perhaps the truth lies somewhere between the stars and the soil. In every generation, there are moments, quiet, uncomfortable, irreversible, when a person realizes they are speaking with someone who cannot comprehend the weight of the future. It's not about ego. It's not even about disagreement. It's about clarity, a mental snap, a sinking realization that the conversation is not between equals, not intellectually, not ideologically, not even directionally. For Elon Musk, one of the sharpest minds of our time, that moment came on a brightly lit stage beside Jack Ma, the billionaire founder of Alibaba, a man hailed in China as a visionary, an innovator, a voice of the East. But on that stage, in that moment, Elon realized something staggering. Jack Ma didn't get it, not even close. They had danced around the subject for over 20 minutes: artificial intelligence, humanity's fate, the future of Earth and Mars. Elon spoke in calculated terms, warning of existential risk, urging preparedness. Jack responded with grins and vague philosophies about love and the human heart. But this wasn't just a difference of style, it was a fracture in understanding. Elon wasn't simply irritated, he was disturbed. The tension had simmered through the earlier chapters of their discussion. Jack had brushed off the dangers of AI, claiming that computers might be clever, but humans are smarter. AI stands for Alibaba Intelligence, he quipped, smiling wide, expecting a laugh. Elon didn't even blink. Jack talked about life, love, and education. Elon talked about neural nets, machine learning, and recursive self-improvement. They were ships passing in the night. But now, the collision was unavoidable. Jack leaned forward and said it again, louder this time, as if repetition might make it profound. Love is the answer. It was the crescendo of everything he had said so far. To him, I was not a threat, but an opportunity to grow spiritually. He dismissed concerns about sentient machines, brushed off technological arms races, and waved away the ethical dilemmas of autonomous systems with platitudes. Humans, he argued, had something machines could never possess: the heart, compassion, wisdom. Elon inhaled slowly. The audience chuckled again, sensing Jack's passion. But Elon's silence was deafening. And then it happened. The mask slipped. "I very much disagree with that," Elon said, his voice low and dry. There was no performance in that moment. No attempt to appear polite. No effort to humor the billionaire next to him. Just the raw honesty of a man who had seen too much to play along. Elon had studied the math, the algorithms, the edge cases. He'd warned governments, begged for regulation, sounded the alarm again and again. To him, this wasn't science fiction, it was science fact. And to hear Jack Ma, the face of Chinese innovation, speak with such naivete, it was more than frustrating. It was terrifying. This was not a disagreement between peers. This was a conversation between a scientist and a storyteller. Elon wasn't just disagreeing with Jack's opinion, he was recognizing that Jack wasn't even in the arena. He wasn't debating from a place of knowledge, but from a gut feeling dressed in optimism. And for Elon, that's the most dangerous kind of ignorance there is. He tried to redirect. "Let's talk about something fun," he said, attempting to move the conversation away from the philosophical dead end Jack had steered it into. But the damage was done. You could see it in his eyes, the subtle tilt of his head, the pursing of his lips. This wasn't the first time Elon had encountered a powerful person who didn't understand the stakes, but it might have been the most public. What Jack didn't understand was that Elon wasn't just talking about robots or jobs. He was talking about civilization itself. In Elon's mind, the AI question isn't whether it will change the world, it's whether we'll survive the change. The conversation with Jack Ma was supposed to be a meeting of titans, a cross-cultural summit of intellect and vision. Instead, it became a live demonstration of how little some world leaders truly understand the tools shaping our tomorrow. Jack, for all his business success, treated AI like a motivational topic. He spoke in parables. Humans created computers. So how can computers be smarter? He asked. The crowd nodded. Elon cringed. That question was not only flawed, it was dangerous. It missed the entire point. Intelligence isn't about origin, it's about capability. The chess-playing computer didn't have to be born, it just had to be programmed. The AI doesn't need a soul to outperform you, it just needs data. As Jack continued with stories about the heart and the Himalayas, Elon's eyes darted. He wasn't angry, he was done. He had realized that the man beside him wasn't a fellow futurist. He was a relic of present-day thinking, dressed in confidence. That wasn't just disappointing, it was alarming. Because when people with real influence don't grasp the depth of the technologies they champion, humanity pays the price. In Elon's world, mistakes are fatal. A failed rocket explodes. A flawed line of code in a self-driving car can kill. There is no margin for vague hope. And yet, here was Jack Ma, laughing off the singularity like a dinner party joke. This wasn't just about AI. It was about what happens when power and ignorance intersect. And so, Elon fell silent, not out of deference, but out of disbelief. The interview wrapped up shortly afterward. There was no shouting match, no dramatic walk-off, just an anticlimactic end to what should have been a meeting of minds. Instead, it was a monologue disguised as a dialogue. Jack Ma left the stage smiling. Elon left the stage troubled. But what Elon took with him was more than frustration. It was confirmation. Confirmation that even some of the most successful people in the world don't see the cliff until they're standing at its edge. Confirmation that optimism is not a substitute for understanding. And perhaps most sobering of all, confirmation that humanity's greatest threat might not be AI itself, but our unwillingness to take it seriously. In the days that followed, the clip of their conversation went viral. Memes exploded. Twitter had a field day. But beneath the internet's laughter was something deeper. A collective recognition of just how far apart two minds can be. And in that gap lies a warning. This wasn't a debate between East and West. This was a divide between caution and complacency, between those who build the future and those who merely comment on it. Two billionaires, one global stage, and one quiet moment of disillusionment that spoke louder than 1,000 words. In that instant, when Elon Musk turned, frowned, and said, "I very much disagree with that," the world didn't just witness a disagreement, it witnessed a realization that not all who lead understand, that not all who speak have listened, and that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who smile the most.